How does that look? I'm getting ready to make some more suspension changes to the Traxxas Maxx. I'm going to lower it. I watched a few videos on YouTube. One of the earlier ones that I watched was a Razor RC video about some tuning tips, how to make the Traxxas Maxx drive good. And he talked about how the suspension is symmetrical on this car. Front and rear, same suspension arm, same shocks. And how a car should have less droop. Setting it up like this, what I'm looking at. With his changes, I do have slightly less droop on the front. That's what you should have on a car for better handling. And the other video I watched was by Mark Santamaria, and it was how to make a change to make a Traxxas car drive good for less than $1. Here's what costs less than $1. Large silicone fuel tubing. If you look a little closer, you'll see that 2 of them are 3/8 of an inch long and 2 of them are 1/4 inch long. These pieces of silicone fuel tubing go inside the shocks. This involves taking the shocks completely apart, taking the shaft out of the shock, and this piece of fuel tubing goes over the shaft on the inside, reinstall it, and that will limit the amount of travel on the shock. The concept of Mark Santamaria's video is by limiting how far the shock can rebound. When you go into a corner, you have less body roll. The inside of the body can't roll up as high. I'm going to combine that concept with Razor RC's of balancing the suspension better by having less droop in the front with the different length tubes, and at the same time I'm going to lower the center of gravity. Here's the droop before I make this modification. So that's the rear wheels, inch. Looks like not quite, yeah, 1.25 inches in the front, inch in the back. So less droop in the front by 1/4 inch. I have the shock completely disassembled. I have the oil drained. This is a rear shock. So take this rod out of the shock, and this gets a 1/4 inch long piece of fuel tubing. Here's where it goes. Slide it up underneath the baffle, and that will limit the amount of travel when you reassemble the shock. Now it's a matter of reassembling the shock, mounting it back on the truck. I have all the fuel tubing spacers put in the shocks all the way around. So I now have 1 3/8 in the back and 1 3/4 in the front. So 3/8, last droop in the front. Here's a look at the stance, the new stance of the Traxxas Maxx. Basically with a lowered center of gravity, a little bit lower in the front. And as far as the geometry, the suspension arms, they're still angling down a little bit towards the tires. It's kind of going for a lower slung, lower center of gravity monster truck. More geared toward handling. Time to get out and test this suspension tune. Quick overview of where I'm at with my suspension tune. I did the move the foam, switch it to the back, so shifted the battery forward. Front shocks are on the outer hole. I changed out the center diff lube. I got 50,000 weight in there now. Now with this, putting these piece of fuel tubing in the shocks, I put 1/4 inch in the back, 3/8 in the front, which when you look at where the shocks attach, when you measure out to the tires, I lowered the rear 3/8 and lowered the front 1/2 inch. And after watching this drop test right here, I changed the front preload to 8mm, so 12 in the back and 8 in the front. And I'm thinking maybe that'll help with the back end bouncing like it does jumping. So let's get out there and see how this thing handles. Okay, here's the new look stance on the Traxxas Maxx. Lowered the suspension with the fuel tubing inside the shocks. So, other thing I can't help but wonder, if I pulled the shocks down with that fuel tubing, limited how high they could come up, the rebound, with the same preload, it would seem to me it's already pulled down, preloaded a little more. So same preload settings, it should be a firmer suspension ride, and it kind of looks like it. So one thing I won't be able to test here will be as far as tipping, because even before in the snow this slid instead of tipping, so I won't be able to test that until I get on a higher traction surface. But I thought I can sure test this just to see how it handles on the 45-degree ramp. So let's just get a little look at her, work our way up, do some baby jumps. I got a real good comparison how it handled before. Okay, so there I tapped some throttle and the back hit first, and it did not cartwheel. So I want to see on just a baby jump here if it doesn't bottom out. So that was a little more than a baby jump, a little more than I wanted. So kind of hard to tell there. Let me back her off a little bit, see if the suspension. So possibly the suspension not having as far to travel doesn't dampen as much on a landing. Or I'm going, yeah, or it's just firmer. It's hitting firmer. I think I set it inside there. I'm up to 50 weight oil in the back and 40 in the front. So it's definitely a firmer suspension. It's be real interesting to see how this handles in a situation like a track situation. But yeah, that feels nice. She got right around on the backflip, that's for sure. So let's go up here. Looks like you got little bumps up here anyway. Let's just see how the suspension is behaving with a little rougher surface. A little drift around here where snowplow's got it kind of chunked up here. Yeah, it handles nice. It's a firm handling machine. Like, I don't see, yeah, it's sliding, but I don't see much body lean on this thing, especially maybe hitting these bumps sideways. Like right there, just digging in sideways. There was no tipping going on there. Staying nice and flat. I think I'm gonna like this. Definitely firmer. I think that little baby jump there, I wouldn't have had the same Lexan body rattle, but she's just a nice firm suspension on the landing. Let me get down here, see if we can catch on video how it behaves on the landing. Well, I think that would have cartwheeled and it didn't. She just set right down nice and flat. So it's a different truck. I think it feels a little more planted, without a question. All right, I won't know the full story until I get it out on dirt and grass and blacktop, but I think I like it.